Hey, this is a Patreon request, a Patreon commentary requested by an Andrew Chilton, who asked for me to do a commentary on the 90s comedy Nothing But Trouble. I will do my best. I'm still sick. I still have this cough, so I do apologize. You'll probably be hearing that throughout. And I'll do my best on the commentary. But let's start at 3, 2, 1, pressing play. Now, this is the 1991 film Nothing But Trouble. Stars Chevy Chase, Demi Moore, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd. It's directed by Dan Aykroyd. The film had like a $40 million budget, fairly high. Was sadly a massive financial bomb. It was also derided by critics. Critics absolutely tore this to pieces. I know Roger especially hated it. Chevy Chase called it the worst film of his career, and I'm going, buddy, you're in Caddyshack 2. Give me a break. Now, it's called Nothing But Trouble, but I know the original title was Valkenvania, which I think Dan Aykroyd wanted, but the studio changed it to Nothing But Trouble. Which I don't mind. I like the title Nothing But Trouble. I think it works for the movie. Now, I thought what made this film work was its very unique, offbeat, crazy melding of horror and comedy. It's kind of like if, hey, let's get people like John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, get all these comedians together and do a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of movie. Which to me is unique and interesting. And I think that's the thing, when you're a kid, you love horror movies and you love these comedians, and then see a melding of the two and this offbeat, peculiar, dare I say, original manner, I should say, and it comes off a fun, offbeat movie. And I thought, Chevy Chase plays the character Thorn here. I thought he did a good job playing this role. I thought, I liked his character. I know in real life, Chevy Chase is known to be a very mean, rude, piece of shit human being, to be honest. Not getting along with a lot of people, whether it be co-workers or directors. Which is too bad, because he seems like a nice guy in his movies, like a fun guy, whether it be in the National Lampoon Vacation movies, among others, or Fletch, and various other movies, but apparently in real life he's a real handful. Demi Moore, this is right after she was in Ghost. Yeah, I thought she did a good job in her role here. And like Chevy Chase in the 90s, he really was not that successful in the 90s. I mean, you think of the films he was a part of. Veda's Vacation, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, Man of the House, I believe, with Jonathan Taylor Thomas. What else was there? Always talk show, the Chevy Chase show that lasted, less than a year? Cops and Robertsons. I mean, I don't know if he made any films that were hits in the 90s. He was very successful in the 70s and 80s, but not so much the 90s. But I do think Chevy Chase still had, in this movie, I think this is his last good one, last good flick. And he still had that fun demeanor and way of saying dialogue and that sort of wise-ass, smooth type of way that still elicits chuckles out of me, at least with this movie. And man, those 90s outfits like Demi Moore has, only in the 90s would you wear a coat like that. And one of the few times you have Demi Moore playing a character that has glasses. Of course, after this she would be in films like Disclosure, Striptease, G.I. Jane, among others. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Demi Moore. Yeah, I apologize, folks. This cough is killing me, and anytime I get a cough, it lasts for like weeks and weeks. That's just how it is with me. I mean, when a woman just randomly asks you to borrow your car, it's like, come on now. I know you're hot, but still not hot enough to just go, hey, yeah, take my car for however long. By the way, I think you could just rent a car. If you need a car that badly, why don't you just go rent a car? Again, I think you could rent a car instead of asking a stranger like Chevy Chase's character, hey, I want to drive your car. And one of those people we just saw, one of the rich people, was Taylor Negron, who was a character actor I remember as the bad guy in The Last Boy Scout, and sadly that's a actor who has passed away. And we have Chevy Chase's character being very much hung out to dry, so to speak. Too much to drink the night before. For some reason I'm thinking Chevy Chase knows his feeling far too well. Now, if he had listened to his initial idea and said, I'm going to go get some sleep, imagine all the trouble he would have missed. But hey, if you want to get some Demi Poontang, you gotta go through some trouble. That's good for thinking of Demi Moore's ass. Ready to cough up a lung. Jesus Christ, Demi Moore was beautiful back then. Of course, who wouldn't be feeling good next to Demi Moore wearing that skimpy outfit? Yeah, if you see these two people, you'd be going, what the fuck, too. I was thinking of trying to do this another night, but I'm going to try to power through on it. Pretty much we have our characters driving through the New Jersey Turnpike. These cough drops don't do any good, but I might as well pop one in. Very nosy questionnaire for Demi Moore, asking if he's still about his divorce and stuff. Sorry, now I'm blanking out. Now I'm just watching the movie. But, yeah, Nothing But Trouble. I remember seeing this the first time when I was a kid. And yeah, ever since then, enjoying its offbeat weirdness and colorful cast. I just love the horror tone along with all the humor. A lot of people were bugged by the tone of the picture. I never was. Yeah, I found it kind of refreshing and interesting. Of course, they take the shortcut or an off-road. That's always the bad thing to do in horror movies, taking the yeah, sinkholes everywhere now. And all these like cool production designs, like the Valkenvania sign that they made up there. Even this, like the town with like the smoke and all these rednecks and smoke. The one coming up I always laugh at, like, look, it's Evil Knievel and Mr. Clean. I think here it is. I can't help but always chuckle from that. And because they didn't stop at the stop sign, that's where the trouble starts. But even the production design of all these signs by the stop sign, like all these like tower of signs, and also to the left and right, like dozen signs just all put together in this weird amalgamation. And that's where this stuff, the trouble even begins further, where the two in the back will be like, hey, come on, just, you don't have to stop, it's just a cop. And Chevy Chase is going to stop, but this is why you shouldn't listen to peer pressure, man. This is where peer pressure gets you. I would like to hear Dan Aykroyd talk about the making of this film. I think that would be a sore subject because everyone hated this and no one would speak highly of it, so maybe not, but as a guy who sincerely was intrigued by the production of this film, again, I just like how crazy outlandish it is. Maybe it doesn't seem like that in its first, 15 minutes or so, but it's definitely a movie that gets crazier as it goes along. Just later on we'll realize that's John Candy in that cop car. Which I have reviewed this film when I did my John Candy marathon. I do have a review of this. That probably better to check that review out than this commentary. It's a detour. In the show, they even these cops and how they have the whole world set up. Like even just to push of a button, they create a fake detour and all this other stuff. Same when we get to the judge and all the ins and outs and trap doors and things. And that's all Valkenvania mansion that the judge Dan Aykroyd lives in. It's a bad call. Yes, the best to just stop. And she'll definitely stop it for you. But yeah, John Candy. Miss John Candy a lot. But I mean, John Candy and Chevy Chase, of course, have worked together on the first National Lampoon's Vacation at the end of that film in the amusement park. And of course, Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd had worked on Spies Like Us and SNL. Again, I apologize for all the coughing. Sorry, now getting sucked into watching it again. I apologize, folks. That's why I kind of, part of me regrets putting the commentary tier on the Patreon stuff, because I realize I'm really not that good with commentaries. My brain grows a blank when trying to talk about a film for 90 minutes or 2 hours. Yeah, but I like the setup of the production design and look of this whole Valkenvania setup. Like these metal sculptures. Yeah, like weird music filtered everywhere and old school cross bridge and that's where they buried Flipper. Flipper's dead? Oh, little moments like that for some reason make me laugh. And I remember ever since I saw this when I was a kid. No cussing. Well, shit. I was mean just the weird thing about like having a mountain of toasters, and I think this really does have a Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel, but in a comedy setting. It just makes for a unique, intriguing movie, offbeat movie. And the budget was on the screen. I mean, how they made this production look. And just like, look at this, the way the set looks and all this stuff they had to get together and create and maneuver into these different places throughout the set. Again, very unique, weird setting for a movie. This is all stuff they set up, and also the inside of this place. Do very big kudos to the production design. The roughed up American flag, the cobwebs, the furniture and antiques. Just how everything like scattered on the ground, all these papers, folders everywhere. Big and vast and dirty and scrambled up. And, Dan Aykroyd, I think he definitely can play a villain. I thought he had some really neat, interesting makeup as well. keeps being called a banker even though he's not, because later on you find out Dan Aykroyd's character hates bankers because of what bankers did to his family way, way back in the day, in the past. And Dan Aykroyd just played this full tilt insanity. And for people who are not a fan of Dan Aykroyd, then hey, this is the right role because you're supposed to hate him or love to hate him or want to hate him. And it works out well. And look, they're dumped onto like Squeaky toys. Yeah, very weird stuff. You get the sort of first inkling that John Candy's character, he's a bit more fair of this family, of this group. Like even he's like, come on, this is not fair that these other people have to stay and they didn't do anything wrong. They had no drugs or guns or anything of that sort. Yes, we have another set of, and actually this is it's one of the bald ones. Is it Daniel Baldwin? I want to say. I want to say it's Daniel, or is it God, which Baldwin is this? I'm trying to think. I want to say it's the Baldwin from John Carpenter's Vampires. Might be that Baldwin. I always forget it. Like, I know there's Alec Baldwin. There's Stephen Baldwin. I think William Baldwin is the one from Backdraft. Yeah, I think this is Daniel Baldwin. I could be wrong. Yeah, but these are the guys who go and get the bone stripper treatment, which is, again, another very interesting, unique part of the movie. Old school breathalyzer. And John Candy has like a little submachine gun on there. And these are guys that, yeah, these guys are not going to end up well. Shitload of stuff there, shitload of drugs and guns there. Yeah, they're definitely gonna pay for that. These four dumb fucks. Again, just the script and the idea of having a judge put to death its victims that it deems guilty, but have them floor cave in, dumped into this pile, to then be sent in this like little roller coaster of death for this thing called Bone Stripper. Just a crazy oppie, and then like all these people been turned to bones, and then this bullseye with the comedic effect with the sound effects. So it's horrific, but it's not too grim or horrific. I didn't, because the sound effects and you didn't actually see gore. You just see them go in, then you see the bones come out. But you didn't really see blood, so to speak. I guess also maybe stuff had to be cut out to make this a PG-13. Because I think this is what this is, a PG-13 rating. We got dinner. Again, this weird thing, like the idea of, okay, you know what, I'm going to have my terror come from the ceiling. Like this. Not just to be rolled in or anything of that sort. No, let me come from the ceiling. Just... I don't know why they just made me of, how about a nice Hawaiian punch? And then the way the Hawaiian punch is like almost like an oil can for Hawaiian punch. I mean, I like Hawaiian punch, but those ants on a log, it's gross as hell. Like, what the hell really is that? It's really ants? Well, like, what is it? And then John Candy in his second role. Then the weirdness just continues. John Tanny playing his second role as a woman. God, now I'm getting sucked to the movie, and I apologize, folks. Because I haven't seen this film in a long time, and I just realized since the last time when I did that John Tanny marathon, which I forget, I think it's been a few years. Again, just this weird design of all this stuff. Even like the stuff Dan Aykroyd wears with like all the buttons on his coat and these weird looking hot dogs. Again, it's like this weird gray looking, more like bratwurst. Looks like a mule's dick or something. And then this train, which has the mustard and ketchup and stuff on it. Just this little stuff that they just add into it that isn't pertaining to the plot. It's not pertaining to the exposition or anything. It's just the little thing to add, like, hey, what if for mustard, let's have this little train that goes around. Yes. Yeah, that one shot Dan Aykroyd's nose was like the tip of a dick. For that one shot, again, not any other shots, but that one shot, just sort of weirdness that they just added in there. And like, what the hell? Did I just see that? Am I dreaming things? Am I going psychotic? Is this movie slipping cocaine into me? In this whole condiment train that's them on here. Here we have our two rich people making a run for it. Pretty ballsy on their part. Chevy Chase, Demi Moore couldn't make it out though. Pretty much a river of shit. So go through the river of putrid. That or you die. There you go. Now swim, motherfucker, swim. And stop bitching. I mean, John Candy, him playing this other role in Drag, I know that was one of the things where I think something like Dan Aykroyd thought this looked so hilarious that it's one of the reasons why he wanted to make the film. Now, I wouldn't say the look of him is as hilarious as probably the Dan Aykroyd. But I thought this was sort of an interesting turn where you can further illustrate that John Candy's character is not that bad of a guy. He's really not that bad of a guy. You need a couple weeks of vacation. That's a good way to sell it for him. Again, like I said, it was interesting that version of John Candy was actually a good guy, was actually a pretty decent guy, and ultimately would get those two rich people out and, you know, gets a reward for doing it too, for doing the right thing. So, you know, I like that little bit of the script. Her about to Chevy Chase Demi Moore in this House of Horrors. And yeah, I love one of the things I love about this movie is the way this location, this set is utilized. I mean, the room they're in with all of these papers on the ground. I imagine being the person that has to collect all these papers and scatter them all throughout this room. Chevy Chase, you lucky son bitch. You have Demi Moore kissing you. Ready to sit on your face. But yeah, Chevy Chase's films throughout the years, I mean, I like Fletch, I like National Lampoon's Vacation and Chris's Vacation. But this would be up there as one of my favorites of Chevy Chase and definitely most underrated. Again, I never really understood the hate for it. I mean, this definitely has ambition and originality. And it definitely has... I don't see laziness with this. You know, a good cast. But yeah, I never really discern all the other bad films and bad comedies that you have out there. That are just completely and utterly lazy and phony and so forth. Like this weird bed. And yeah, I just love the trying to work around this weird big old mansion, all the different rooms they come across. Like the bat room. Like you literally have the entire fucking hallway closing in on them and trying to crush them. That's sort of the fun. It makes you wonder what the hell's going to happen next. Again, just makes you wonder like what's going to happen next in this house and what are they going to find next? What's going to be in the next room and what other trapdoors and things of that nature. Almost like a comedy version of The People Under the Stairs. Which I think came out the same year, The People Under the Stairs, so... Sort of an interesting counterbalance, interesting double features, this and The People Under the Stairs. And speaking of again of set design, just this whole room here of just all of these various different driver's licenses from various years in various states. Auto club cards and various licenses and passports. And it showcases just how many people they've murdered throughout the years too. Jimmy Hoffa. So now you know what happened to Jimmy Hoffa. Painters. Again, that Chainsaw Massacre vibe. You know, that they find skeletons there. Could look up what some trivia on IMDb for this movie. so there's not so much dead air. Before I get into the I didn't know we'd have like fun little slides that you would see in the Goonies. Didn't just make you know what's going to happen next. See, looking at the trivia. Based on Dan Aykroyd's personal experiences, in 1978 he was pulled over for speeding in a rural town in the northeastern U.S. The police officer took him to local justices of the peace in the middle of the night for a trial. Roger Ebert famously hated the movie and told the loud kids who were making rude comments to talk even louder so you didn't have to listen to the movie. Yeah, very professional, you, Roger Ebert. But this weird lumpy head that Dan Aykroyd's character has, and then this skin, pretty much taking the nose off. Would you see other horror villains not have a nose? I mean, was that the case for like Leatherface in one of those newer movies that he didn't have a nose? Or his nose was gone and such? Chevy Chase did not like the script but took the lead role because he wanted to work with his friend Dan Aykroyd. He later said that Aykroyd took a huge career hit when the movie bombed because he was the director, writer, actor, and producer. The movie only made $8.5 million, and the movie was budgeted at $40 million, so yeah, it was a massive flop. Only film directed by Dan Aykroyd. The crew enjoyed working with John Candy and Demi Moore, but they thought Chevy Chase was a nightmare. Chevy Chase was verbally abusive to people on set. He stated that he had more worth than Dan Aykroyd because Chevy Chase had the bigger paycheck. The crew was furious at Chase's treatment of Dan Aykroyd, with one crew member even threatening to drop a brick on Chevy Chase's head if he ever spoke to the director like that again. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Let's see. The film was originally darker and a tad more graphic. However, when test audiences reacted poorly, the film was re-edited and its release date was pushed back. I would like to have seen the more graphic movie version of this. Movie won Worst Picture at the Hastings Bad Cinema Society's 14th Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. Aykroyd spent 6 months writing it as a screenplay titled Get, which was later changed to Road to Ruin. Dan Aykroyd described the script as a monster movie and compared it to Beetlejuice and the Chainsaw Massacre, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Huh. One of the things that inspired the movie was one day Dan Aykroyd imagined his friend John Candy in dread and burst with laughter for several weeks. Every time he imagined that image, he would burst out with laughter, so Aykroyd decided to write a movie where John Candy would play a woman, and he thought of the plot later. It's not that hilarious, Dan. Dan Aykroyd wanted to play the judge and the lead character, but the studio wanted Chevy Chase to play the lead character, and Dan Aykroyd agreed. With no director attached, Aykroyd said he would direct the film to secure the deal, even though he didn't want to direct the film. Of course, by here we have these two, again, you think the weirdness is gone. It's amplified even more by these two giant babies. Like Dan Aykroyd is one of them. Then these weird mutant giant baby men wearing giant diapers. It's like, what the fuck is this movie? But I kind of commend the movie for that. It's definitely its own thing. Dan Aykroyd offered the script to John Hughes, who was interested, but turned it down because he only directed his own strips. John Landis thought the script sucked and immediately turned it down. Oh, John Landis thought it sucked. You mean the same guy who did Blues Brothers? No, he didn't do... Did he do Blues Brothers 2000? I know he did The Stupids and Beverly Hills Cop 3. The band Digital Underground. The Humpty Hump, you know, that band. Definitely one of the big high points of the movie. Aykroyd screened his director's cut for Warner Bros. The executives meddled. Warner Bros. Considered the film a mess and pressured Dan Aykroyd to tone down the cartoonish violence to avoid an R rating, which caused the release date to be pushed back from Christmas 1990 to February 1991. We got a fun little fight between Chase and Dan Aykroyd. My stonker. Just offhand comments like that. And it makes the absurdity even more funny to me. One of 4 films Chevy Chase appeared with Dan Aykroyd: Spies Like Us, Caddyshack 2, and The Couch Trip. That's right, Dean Cundy, who did the DP in many John Carpenter films like The Thing. He's worked with Robert Zemeckis' Back to the Future. He was the DP of this. Makeup designer was David B. Miller, who I believe worked on The first Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe. David B. Miller. Yeah, David B. Miller worked on Mutant, The Beastmaster, Swamp Thing, the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Won quite a few others. Huh, David B. Miller worked on the makeup for this too. And yes, there in the Y shot on the far left is Tupac Shakur. The Tupac is in this movie. Sorry, just looking more in the IMDb trivia. Yeah, Chevy Chase, the 90s were not really successful for him because his films include like Man of the House, Vegas Vacation, Cops and Robertsons, Members of Invisible Man did not do well. Dan Aykroyd, even acting-wise, wasn't doing well because he was in The Edge of the Eden, Celtic Pride, Getting Away with Murder, Sergeant Bilko, My Fellow Americans. John Candy had a big hit with Cool Runnings, but died a few months after its release, which is really too bad. Let's see. Yeah, sorry I'm going blank. I'm trying to get to the trivia. There's Tupac Shakur in the New York Yankees t-shirt. And this is a song I remember ever since I first saw this movie when I was a kid. It's a good song by Digital Underground. It's the same old song. Boom, 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 boom. To the petticoats. Wonder what happened to Digital Underground. It's the same all around the world, same song. All around the world, same song. And of course showcasing that the judge can play piano. It's so weird, like seeing Tupac Shakur there. That's him in the New York Yankees shirt. Rest in peace, Tupac. But it definitely has a fun beat, this song. Definitely a very fun beat. The world, same song. And it seems like music is the soft spot for the judge. It's probably one of the only times. But it was kind of cool to see Chevy Chase versus Dan Aykroyd, like one being the hero, one being the villain. Just hearing the stuff they have done before in SNL and Spies Like Us. So I thought that was kind of a cool, interesting, different dynamic between the two. And here it's like either you die or you don't marry John Candy and drag. Which that's a tough decision. I don't know what decision you would make. Would you choose death or to marry John Candy and drag? I choose death. No, I'm just... But John Candy, to talk a little bit about him, I mean, I did a marathon on John Candy, and I very much miss the guy. That's why I did the marathon where I reviewed pretty much all the films John Candy has been in. My favorites would be films like Summer Rental, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Great Outdoors, this movie, Spaceballs is good, Stripes is a classic. But yeah, if you're wondering, I reviewed all of them on the channel. Cool Runnings I reviewed. Canadian Bacon, Wagons East, Who's Harry Crumb, things of that nature. And I did Underground's version of the wedding theme. Dun, dun, dun. That was always weird whenever the guys, like, when they end the song, da da da, I swear you always hear someone laugh in the background. You always hear this ha 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 ha. I don't know why. Even when I first saw this way back in the day, I always remember that. Just like, who the hell is that laughter? It's like, ha 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 ha. I'm like, that's like a weird thing they keep in the edit. It's a weird, like, little mistake or something that they keep in there. Here we got Chevy Chase trying to say yes. Here we go. Uh-oh. Now Chevy Chase's turn at the bone stripper. But, they've established it at the beginning. We've established what it can do, how dangerous this is for our main character. So the movie did a good job of, again, establishing that with the Daniel Baldwin is doing this beforehand. We saw those guys didn't make it, but we see how Chevy Chase is able to do it. He's able to break the fucking machine. Yeah, they'll definitely do it. So, I mean, if people were to ask me, like, what it is I liked about the film, I've said that countless times about the liking the cast, the unique, odd mix of horror and comedy. Is there stuff I don't think works in this film? Not all the jokes work. The whole, John Candy's in dread, I don't think it's as funny as I guess Dan Aykroyd makes it out to be. The two overgrown baby diaper wearing mutant things is a bit out there even for this kind of movie. It's a bit out there. For me, there's not really a whole lot that I dislike about this movie. It's a fairly short film. It's only 90 some minutes long. You want the mint candy? I guess that's a little foreboding to what we'll see later when he pushes his cane into the ground and it's all steaming hot and red. I'd be curious if someone like Bill Murray watch a film like this. Because sometimes it seems like Bill Murray likes weird type of movies. I think Bill Murray saw films like... I want to say he saw... What was that movie? Frankenhooker? I want to say Bill Murray saw a movie like Frankenhooker and liked it. So I wonder if a movie like this would be up his alley. And this is a movie that I'm surprised doesn't have a bigger cult audience than it does nowadays. Considering the films that do get cult audiences and be cult hits, I'm very surprised this isn't one. I don't even think this film has a Blu-ray. mean, it's not going to have any features because no one likes the film. But I'm just saying. And it didn't do well as a box office bomb, so that's why, Warner Bros. Isn't going to care to see this film get a Blu-ray release. Gets like a 5.1 on IMDb, which I've deemed way, way too low. Big mistake. Oh shit. I love the idea that we're going to cut Demi Moore into little pieces. And Chevy Chase just to be a little bit of a hero here, a little bit of an action hero here, by making this thing explode. A nice, good practical explosion. No digital in that area. Well, her feet are untied. Just flip her all the way over. That way, just... Very close. That's a nice shot too. You have your two main characters in front, and as they're going around by the camera, have real explosions in the background. That's some good timing to be used. It's not something that could be redone multiple times. Definitely takes some preparation there. Yeah, here we're getting to the train sequence. Sorry that I haven't been talking all the way through with this commentary, folks. I do apologize for that. Obviously, if you watch this like this, me being blank and not saying anything doesn't really offer much of anything. And you have your characters beside a real-life train. I mean, sadly, these days it would be CGI. CGI train, green screen, things like that. But it's something as simple as, having these characters actually jump onto a real train. Definitely makes the scene more believable and more easy to blend in and get lost in. And not be taken out of the movie because of a fake CGI train. But yeah, you got a little bit of love story, adventure, horror, comedy, and just weird, quirky offbeatness. And then just explain all this stuff to these guys. Because you have Brian Doyle Murray, who's really the Bill Murray, here on the left. Yeah, Brian Doyle Murray. This guy in the middle, I forget the actor's name. I know I've seen him in a bunch of stuff. It is weird that this truck would crash right through the damn gate just for this whole big ruse of everybody is in with the judge. Like, everybody's with him. I would say this is another bit that I did not like in the film. I don't care for this twist of all these people just happen to be friends with the judge and know what he's doing. It's like, wait a minute, all these people happen to know and happen to be a part of what the judge is doing and his illegal activities? Really? All these cops and all... I mean, it's done for some kind of, like, cheap joke. But I don't know, it just made me roll my eyes and be like, oh, brother, come on now, really? But that's coming up in a minute. And then out of the blue, this whole thing happens where just though everything's coming crashing down just because of luck or fate or something. I don't know, just big coincidence. Like at that moment now things are going... I don't know, it just seems like kind of a messy finale. Kind of a messy scenario for the ending of your movie. But I don't know, maybe it's just me being weird. But I mean, Chevy Chase did get his Beamer back, did his car back. There's barely anything left of it. Definitely a lot of, getting budget being spent that's you just see on the screen. And see, that's what I was talking before. Like John Candy, the good guy, he did the right thing. Now look at him. He's got a new woman. He's rich. Definitely the right decision. Hey, doing the right thing pays off. And then Chevy Chase pretty much pretend to be Dan Aykroyd in this nightmare. Trying to sound like him. But the ending gets saved by this like crazy, wacky Looney Tunes send off, which does make me crack up, I will admit, especially when Chevy Chase's last words. After this news program starts right here. No, you won't. That right there is like made me laugh my ass off when I first saw it. No, you won't. And then there's credits that I'm not sure if they do much nowadays, where they actually show the person's face and then the name underneath it. Fun way of doing the end. I like when they do that with the end credits, when they show the face and then the person's name. That means each cast member sort of gets their moment. At least some of them did. But yeah, I'll end it here. I won't go through the end credits like I did before. I do apologize to the dealing with the sickness and such. That's why I'm laying down. Not that imaginative and trying to think of stuff to talk about when watching these movies. Seems like reviews are much easier. But that's my, I'm sure, very boring commentary on nothing but trouble. Like I said, it's a very fun, entertaining, interesting, creative, weird, offbeat melding of horror and comedy that, dare I say, is pretty original, fairly out there. And while I have some issues with the ending, the finale, and some jokes that don't work or I don't think are as funny as maybe the director Dan Aykroyd thought they were. The cast worked well. I did like Chevy Chase. I did like Dan Aykroyd. I did like Demi Moore and John Candy. Some fun songs like the Digital Underground song, All Around the World, same song. There were jokes that made me laugh, or like bits of humor, the way certain lines were said and delivered by the actors. The score fit the film well. Great production design. That's definitely a criminally underrated part. Is the production design, the way the sets looked and the way how they structured the outside and the inside of the Valkenvania perimeter and the building, and like the room with all the license plates, or I should say the driver's licenses and the passports, and a lot of creativity used in the movie. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it's been made out to be. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Later.